Yeah, messieurs! Welcome back to the Spearfishing channel. In this week's video, I'll be covering a couple insane dives I did with Make It Happen and Jamile up by Graysby. We started day 1 by VG, and just minutes after jumping off the boat, I had already spotted a big barra. It really didn't want anything to do with me, so I went to go and pick up my throw flasher. However, me doing that must have sparked its curiosity, and it ran right over to me. That was a brutal miss on my part, and I scrambled to the surface to try and throw my flasher again, but at that point it was gone already. We didn't see anything else by VG, so we got back on the boat and we ran all the way up to Graysby. This is one of my favorite places to dive on island since it's rich with my favorite fish to eat, being the strawberry grouper. This one was the perfect eating size, so I really made sure to take my time so I wouldn't miss. Out of all the different fish I've eaten, these are 100% the best since the meat has so much flavor and the texture is absolutely perfect. I also find it's quite rare to get them big enough to shoot, so when I see them, I always get super excited. Another thing about Graysby is that you'll never know what you're going to see, and in this next clip, something happened that to this day I still cannot believe. Me and Jamile made it to a mark where we had shot some amazing fish in the past, but there didn't seem to be anything around that really stood out. After a while, we just started to target podfish, and I was diving with one band loaded. However, that was a big mistake because halfway through one of my dives, I saw a massive king mackerel. I quickly tried to load my second band, but that ended up spooking the fish and I had to chase it down to try and hit a long shot. That miss was such a heartbreak since it's not every day I get to see those fish, and especially a monster like that one. From my experience, kings are one of the rarest fish we get in St. Lucia, with that being the 5th time I had ever seen one. That brutal encounter also happened towards the end of the dive, and it haunted me until the next time I got in the water. A few days later, we were back out with Make It Happen, and I was desperate for redemption. We started off the day in a really shallow zone, and before I made this dive, I had seen something monstrous swim underneath this ledge. There were loads of different holes under there for fish to hide, so I was just looking around and hoping I would see any movement from that giant. The next entrance to the cave seemed to have much more fish by it, and when I looked under, I saw the monster's tail and I just let my spear fly. Right away, I put on the pressure so it wouldn't get deeper into the hole, and I was able to extract it on that same dive. That right there was a monster of a mutton snapper, and in that moment, I knew it was the biggest one I had ever shot. This fish was so big that I couldn't even figure out how to hold it, and it took me a couple of seconds to process its size before I dispatched it. For any of y'all who are new to the channel, mutton snappers are some of my favorite fish of all time, and the feeling of landing big ones like this is something I just cannot explain with words. Also, this fish was and still is my personal best mutton, coming in at just over 15 pounds. Right after I took out that monster, the boat came over to pick us up and we started diving a reef that was much closer to shore. On the drop before I made this one, I had seen a monster Graysby Grouper run into this crack in the reef. Because of that, I planned this dive while I was on the surface and I made my drop away from where I saw the fish so I could take my time and creep towards it. Once I knew the fish wouldn't be able to see me, I peeked over the ledge and I could just barely see its silhouette hanging in that cave. That was a disgusting stone shot on what turned out to be the biggest Graysby I had ever seen. It ended up weighing in at close to 2 pounds, and with the IGFA world record for these fish being 3.5, that was a really solid one. With those last 2 fish, this day was turning out to be absolutely amazing, and it was only about to get better. While we were swimming along the edge of the reef, I saw a very weird rock that looked suspiciously like a big mutton snapper. Because it was lying on the reef, I wasn't confident in my shot and I rushed over to make sure the spear passed all the way through. This 8-pound mutton was 100% the weirdest encounter I've ever had with one, because like all snappers, they are normally very smart and hard to hunt. However, strangely enough, in my last video I had the exact same experience with a nice grey, but ever since those 2 fish, I haven't seen any other snappers do that. After taking that mutton, we started moving into some deeper water, and halfway through a dive, I saw a nice Cero Mackerel and I quickly turned on my camera. Right away I could tell my shot placement was absolutely horrible, and since mackerel have incredibly soft flesh, I was really worried it would rip out.
I need a backup. It's not big, it's just a shot.
I played the fish as lightly as possible, and luckily my shot held long enough for Jamile to make his way over to me. That right there is one of the main reasons Jamile is such a good dive partner. When it comes to backup shots, he's always locked in, and like always, he secured that beautiful 4-pound Cero. Now, when I shot that mackerel, we were getting close to heading home, but just before we were about to leave, I saw a monster Queen Triggerfish from the surface. While I was making my drop, I made sure to only look at it out the corner of my eye so I could keep track of the fish without spooking it. These big queens are incredibly wary of divers, so you have to be very patient and take your time to make them comfortable with your presence. The whole time I was on the bottom, I was just playing as if I wasn't seeing the fish, and eventually curiosity got the better of it. That was a perfect example of a flawless hunt. From the drop to the long bottom time and then to that nasty stone shot, there really wasn't anything I could have done better. Also, like a lot of fish from this day, this monster Queen Triggerfish was my new personal best, and it weighed in at 7 pounds. They are also incredibly good eating since they eat a lot of shellfish, so it was really an amazing fish to end off that insane day of diving.